Hey everyone, I hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everyone is hopefully enjoying the heat. I don't know about where you're at, but it's been excruciatingly hot here. I'm not the biggest fan, but hey, it is what it is, right? I wanted to talk with everyone today about something that I get asked about a lot as a therapist, and that is how to ruin a perfectly good relationship. So I want to kind of provide each of you with kind of the short answer to this. I work with couples a lot. I work with individuals as well, in the states of Connecticut, Texas, Florida, and in the UK, via telehealth. And I'll tell you, one thing that clients very consistently bring to me as a therapist are issues in their relationships. Romantic relationships in particular. And I personally believe, the research is pretty clear on this, that most of the things that couples argue about or have conflict about, they don't ever fully get resolved. Couples tend to have the same conflicts over and over and over again. The research actually says that 69% of those conflict topics are perpetual. They keep coming up. So it tends to be more important that we learn to dialogue peacefully about the conflicts rather than getting to the root of the problem and, oh my gosh, we're going to fix it. That may be disappointing to some of you, but I know even in my own marriage, sometimes I'll hear my husband speak about something and I'm thinking, oh God, not this conflict again. So very human experience, right? So the research on this is pretty interesting. It's pretty comprehensive. So many of you have heard me talk about the psychologists John and Julie Gottman before. Their husband and wife team. They basically spent the last more than 30 years scientifically studying couples, in their interactions. And they've been able to identify 4 behaviors that couples tend to do that can be predictive of divorce or separation. So they actually call them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So I might preface this by saying, these are 4 behaviors that tend to occur in every romantic relationship to some extent. When they become habitual behaviors is when problems tend to arise. So they call them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, after the reference in the New Testament book of Revelations. So the first one of these is criticism. So the Gottmans would say that voicing a complaint is okay. I really felt very ignored, when I came home from work the other night and you were watching television and didn't acknowledge me. That's voicing a complaint. Versus the critical response. You never listen to me. You're always doing your own thing and you only think about you. You hear the difference, right? So the critical response tends to be more of a globalizing response. They tend to have the words always and never. When if we think about it, I'm guessing that for most of us, we probably wouldn't be in those relationships in the first place if things were always or never the case. So making it about real-time behavior. Hey, I feel uncomfortable when I see you doing X, Y, and Z. I'd really prefer if you did A, B, and C. That's voicing a complaint. I always tell my couples that I work with in therapy, completely erase the words always and never from your vocabulary. They do not belong in your interactions with your partner. The second of the 4 horsemen is defensiveness. And defensiveness tends to be a reaction to criticism. So when we get defensive, we essentially don't acknowledge the concerns of the other person. We brush them aside, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You always say that. We don't take responsibility for even part of our behaviors. We shift the blame back to the person making the complaint. And think about the message that sends. When we do that enough, it kind of says to the other person, your needs aren't important to me. The third one and I would say the most insidious of the four horsemen is what the Gottmans call contempt. So contempt occurs when we make a statement of superiority, or we engage in behaviors to make the other person believe that we're somehow superior to them. This tends to happen when there's been a hostility in the relationship for some time. So it might include things like name calling, eye rolling. We might kind of cross our arms and huff and puff. We scoff at the other person. We really take on the mentality, the mindset that we're better than they are. Contempt is the number one predictor of separation or divorce. In fact, the Gottmans, they studied couples in a laboratory, where they had couples actually live in the laboratory. They had little apartments there built for the couples, and they would videotape, everything the couples did and said to each other. And one thing they found, pretty consistently, is that when contempt is present in our conflict discussions, it tends to be very predictive of divorce or separation. In fact, the Gottmans can successfully predict this divorce after seeing a couple dialogue for only 10 minutes. If contempt is present, it significantly increases the likelihood that, at some point, the relationship is not going to work. So one way to kind of combat contempt is to really be mindful of really making the relationship an equal partnership where both people feel valued and respected, a culture of respect. And that's really what we need to foster in our relationships. Again, I don't think any of us are perfect at it. I think it's a learning process. But if you spot contempt in your relationship, really need to work to get that out of the relationship. Very, very toxic to romantic relationships. And then the last of the four horsemen is something that the Gottmans call stonewalling. So that's kind of just what it sounds like. It's when the listener just kind of shuts down, they stop listening, they literally cannot process the information because they are feeling so physiologically overwhelmed in the moment that they just kind of shut the other person out. It's almost like a self-defense of behavior. But again, much like defensiveness, think about the message that sends to the person voicing the complaint. Even if they're voicing a complaint in a very hostile, negative way, it sends the message that I don't care about your needs aren't important to me, you're not important to me, you just need to get over it. Not very helpful in romantic relationships. So really, I think, the core of what we do in couples therapy is getting couples really recognize these behaviors when they occur in their interactions and being more intentional about kind of hitting the brakes and giving each other time to cool off so that we can come back and more peacefully dialogue about a topic. And I always tell the couples I work with a lot of LGBTQ couples. I work with heterosexual couples, and the thing I see really consistently is this tendency when one or both people are feeling physiologically triggered by the conflict, they'll just kind of shut down, or they'll shut the other person out and say, I'm not listening to this. Doesn't really communicate to the other person, I care about you, I care about what your needs are, I want to try to understand where you're coming from. And so that's kind of what we get at in couples therapy work, is really kind of learning how to catch those reactions when they occur, those behaviors, intentionally hit the brakes, give ourselves time to calm down physiologically, and then really take turns, sharing our perspectives on whatever the conflict topic is. Couples tend to do really, really well with this. I've completed a level 2 of the training with the Gottman Institute. So I use a lot of the Gottman method interventions in my work with couples. But please, I've got several articles on my website, briansharpcounseling.com. just go to the blog page. I've got several relevant articles on there to this discussion of the four horsemen and couples work. And I work with couples, via telehealth. So if you're in Texas, Florida, Connecticut, or the UK, I am I'd be happy to work with you. Just have a look at our website. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. And, if you think of anyone who might benefit from seeing this video, I'd greatly appreciate you sharing it. But I hope everyone has a great day. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, okay? I'd be happy to hear from any of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.